Hey everybody, welcome to Someday Sunday, this official Google Plus Hangout. I'm here with my buddy Rob, David, and we're going to talk about productivity. So for all of you watching now, or maybe you're watching on a replay, we say welcome, and we're excited about what we're going to do today. Rob, how you doing, man? Doing well?
Really good. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited about what we'll be sharing today.
It's a big deal, and I think people don't recognize the importance of it, of what productivity is all about, and how it happens, and all the things that kind of comes with it. So we're gonna have a good time here. We're gonna have some Q&A, maybe a little bit later, and it's just gonna be really, really, really awesome. So all that to say the least, let's kind of get started, and I want to go ahead and tweet this link out as well, so then that way we can make sure that we've got people watching accordingly. Let's see here, YouTube page, and we are good. While I'm doing this, Rob, do you want to talk about your kind of journey with productivity and how it kind of got started?
Yeah, absolutely. It really started back when I started my career as a financial advisor. And the reason being, you had a lot of different aspects of that job that were intersecting at certain times, and every single day was different. So I knew starting in very early on that I had to put something in place that would provide structure, you know, and that would provide me with something that I could go to in case something pops up on my calendar that I did not plan for or was not prepared to do at that very moment. And so that's where it began. And it really began with a paper calendar and a pencil and going to a productivity seminar to see how the prevailing system that was in place at that time would work with me. And the one thing that I noticed early on is that while that system was very structured, I had to customize something to work for my situation. Not only the job or the position I was in, but the way that my brain works, the way that I like to work, the way that I would be able to quickly write a note down or quickly capture a thought and be able to file that away in a system where I had certainty that I could find it again. And so I think the biggest thing with any productivity plan that you put in place is that it's got to provide consistency, and it's got to provide you a way to be able to access the information and add to the information. And the great thing about today versus 20 years ago is that we have devices, we have computers, we have websites, we have all sorts of apps that can connect with each other and be able to give us that information when we need it, be able to, the quicker I can get something out of my head onto a piece of paper or captured in a system, the quicker I have that room in my head for a new creative thought or a new something else to think about. And so if I don't have to devote brain power to remembering something because I've remembered to put it somewhere else, I can now focus on a project or a task that's in front of me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, it's important that, kind of starting with the why of it all. Like why, like sure, we could be productive. Some people like to just jump into the river of, productivity and just kind of go down whatever it means. But we have to understand kind of the why, and we start with why all the time. And I think it comes down to this. Number one, God is a God of order. And we believe that as Christians, you and I both share in the Christian faith. We believe that God is a God of order, and He does things in a rhythm. He does things on a purpose, and He does things for a reason. He doesn't just accidentally do things. So if God doesn't accidentally do things, why should we accidentally do something in our day or just see what comes up or whatever's next? No, we understand and we recognize that as we're going forward and as we're moving through things, that we need to do things in order because God is a God of order, and we believe, according to Genesis 1:26 and 27, that we're made in that image. So if we're made kind of in the way that God is wired up, in a sense, we understand that okay, if God's going to do something with an order, surely there should be order in our everyday lives and not chaos. Order is the opposite of chaos, and
Mm-hmm.
we understand that chaos is kind of rooted from confusion. God's not an author of confusion, so why in the world should we be in a life state of confusion as well? And that's something that I think it takes discipline. It does. It takes discipline to say, I'm going to live a life of order. It takes discipline to understand that as you go about and as you do things on a daily basis, that you're going to purposely decide, I want to do this because it's going to benefit my overall life. It's going to benefit the people I'm affecting, whether you're a family person and maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you're responsible for getting the kids to soccer practice, etc., or kind of like you in a business, but you also have side stuff with your
Mm-hmm.
car club and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like me in a pastoral sense who is managing multiple teams, and things have to get done efficiently in order for ministry to happen. Like, it doesn't matter your state of life. You could even be a college student just trying to get your homework on track and what that means and how that falls into place. So God is a God of order. Because God is a God of order, we believe we should be people of order, and we believe passionately that where there is a common order, there is an uncommon glory that can follow that. We see that through the Bible. I've talked a lot about that before, and we can
Mm-hmm.
link to some of that later on. So I think that's kind of the why of where we are. I think another reason that we would talk out too of the why is the integrity factor. And when you think of the word integrity, what do you think of? The root word of integrity is integer, one,
Mm-hmm.
whole. I think it's almost embarrassing that we would represent Jesus Christ and not have a holistic state of health, a holistic state of mind, a holistic state of the way we operate in our day to day. And so the integrity aspect, it's almost in a sense of, kind of the church has kind of preached it that integrity is doing the right thing, and it is, and that don't have any gaps, and it is. How much more so should we say that in our lives? If
That's
you
right.
are constantly trying to catch up, or I just can't stay ahead, or I've overcommitted myself, you're not in a place that you can be where you can say, okay, well, hey, this is, yeah, I'm just trying to make it happen. We don't believe you should make it happen. We believe that you should purposely, be
Mm-hmm.
what you and I like to call productivity on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Not just to be
Mm-hmm.
productive, but to be
Mm-hmm.
productive with the purpose that there is a purpose greater than just being busy. And
Mm-hmm.
when someone always asks me, "Hey, how's it going?" I do my very best not to say, "Oh, I'm just so busy." You're busy because you choose to be busy.
That's right.
And in your awareness to be busy, you've actually copped out by saying, well, because I'm busy really means that I didn't plan out my day, really means I didn't plan out my life, really means I didn't organize with the tools that are there. And like you said earlier, it is easier than ever to be involved in the 21st century with the tools, the tasks that are there, and whether you choose a digital device or whether you choose a legal pad and a pencil, you can be productive. And that's kind of what we're gonna kind of unpack today, as we talk about this a little bit. Let's talk about what productivity is for a little bit. And when we talk about productivity on a purpose, we understand the why, to be in order, to be in what we believe that the way that God kind of created us and helped us to manage our lives. But what is it? And I like to say it this way. I think that productivity is staying ahead of the game so you don't fall behind. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a purposeful plan. What would you say, Rob, that productivity is, and something that kind of gets you going?
Um, for me, every single one of us, no matter what, if we're in full-time ministry, if we are in business, if we're a student, if we're a stay-at-home mom, like you said, no matter what area of life we're in, we all have 24 hours. Okay, each one of us has that period of time to accomplish the things that, number one, we feel we have to accomplish, and number two, that get, for the lack of a better word, that get pushed to us to do. Okay,
Right.
and so, Habakkuk says that write the vision, make it plain, that you can run with it. Okay, and so the key is that to be productive, or when I look at productivity, I want to make sure that um, I am being a good steward of the responsibilities and the areas that God has given me control over. Meaning that whether it is in business, or it is with projects, or it is with hobbies, or it is with friends and family, we all have these tugs on our time, and we want to always, I always look at it as I want to be led, by the Holy Spirit and where my time needs to go. And if I don't do my part in order to schedule out where my time needs to go, then I get caught in this whirlwind tornado of, well, I have to do that, or whatever deadline is next becomes priority. And
Right.
that's not the way we need to live.
Yeah, if you're constantly putting out fires, then you've missed it.
You've absolutely missed it. And I used to say this, that it's like spinning plates. If you've ever seen that little variety show trick where they're spinning plates, you've got big plates, you've got small plates, you've got plates you gotta spin just once and it'll spin for 5 minutes, and then you got other plates that you always have to watch. Well, you have got to take a look at your whole, not only your whole day, your week, your month, your quarter, your year. You've got to look and see which one of these things needs my attention now.
Right.
And so when you plan things out, you have time to devote attention to things all day long. And it's not where you have to put out this fire, or you have to handle this. And so my life has become a much more orderly, and I'm actually more effective and use my time much more efficiently when I am able to have things lined out already. And that's the one thing I do personally, is I look at tomorrow, like when we're done with this great visit, I'm going to look at what I have to do tomorrow and throughout the week, and I'm already going to plan it out, because
Right.
I'm not going to show up in the morning and wonder, what am I doing today?
Right. I think
I'm going to spend the 5-10 minutes and already know what tomorrow has in store.
let's get some staple statements here that we can kind of just anchor onto. Okay, that productivity is not an app.
No.
Product productivity is not productivity is a process. It's a way that you manage life.
Hmm.
It's the one, two, threes of how you choose to organize your world. So as we kind of start focusing in a little bit and get it, kind of geeky on the process side,
Hmm.
you and I share this common. We've talked about this, many multiple times.
Hmm.
Productivity is almost becoming kind of like a life hobby. It's like a never-ending subject.
Right.
What's out there? What can I get my hands into?
Yeah.
How can I manage more effectively? Because it's not just about, oh, good, I got it done, check it off the list.
Right.
Understanding that when I am actively working on something, that I can be focused on it. But if I'm not working on something, I'm not constantly thinking about it in the back end. Oh yeah, I can't forget. I got to go to the store and I got to write up that report and I got to turn in
Hmm.
all those receipts and the business reports and all that. You're not there, and you can truly be 100% focused where you're supposed to be. So if it's a conversation,
Hmm.
then be in that conversation. If it's trying to figure out what's like you said tomorrow, then do that. And so productivity is a process. It is the system that we choose, and there's not going to be one way of doing it. Your productivity system is totally different than mine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We've learned that, the reason I'm kind of calling these new Sundays Someday Sunday is because there was so long that for so long you've always heard leaders specifically say, someday we're going to do this, and someday we're going to build a building, and someday we're going to have a media ministry, and someday, and they never get around
Hmm.
to it. And the reason they
Hmm.
never get around to it is, I strongly believe, because they have no process for productivity. They have no way to, what we would call in the source, completing the circle, and what it
Hmm.
means to follow up and to process that out. So let's kind of talk about what's out there, because there's a lot of people who have already done some really really great stuff. You said it earlier. You said that it's the main rules of productivity is get it out of your head and put it somewhere. There's a book that you and I are both very familiar with. We would suggest it to everyone. It's called Getting Things Done by David Allen. It's a methodology, if you will, a process of kind of how to go about organizing your thoughts and getting things done. It's known as the GTD process. GTD is wildly known. I mean, every business, I think he won awards, and it's amazing
Hmm.
how I'll still see videos on YouTube of him still talking about a book that he wrote over a
Yeah.
decade ago.
Yeah.
So these processes are proven. They're time stamped. One thing that I love that David Allen said, though, in the book, and then in some of the interviews that I've been watching recently, was that this is, you have to create something custom for you. You even helped me with this at dinner one night when you said that there's only one you. There's only one way that you think. There's only one way that you process. So quit trying to put yourself into a box of what works and what doesn't work. Let's do it for you. So let's just kind of talk out our processes first,
Yes.
and then we can kind of, this is where it gets dangerously wild, because we're so passionate, and kind of some
We
context.
get really excited about
We
this.
really do.
Yeah.
We really do. And I think some context, which is good, is, for the longest time, I could always stay up to speed with things, but it would always frustrate me when I would show up to a meeting and I would get asked the question like, "Hey, what's the latest on XYZ?" And I'm going, I haven't thought of XYZ
Yeah.
since the last meeting when you
Hmm.
told me to think about XYZ. That's embarrassing. That's not being up, with my understanding of where I'm at. Like, it didn't manage my time well. We call it being punched, and I didn't like being blindsided by, man, I
Hmm.
totally forgot to do that. I didn't like that, and I wanted to be better. So I started working on a system. I made the error is I started looking for the perfect app, the perfect design. That's not the way to do it at all whatsoever. You have to build a process. So talk about your process. How do you, from information, what do you do, and where do you go with it?
Well, what I have, and you enlightened me to this when we had dinner. I have an app that's called To-Do, and I would just call it my to-do list. And at dinner, when we were talking about, it, you go, so you have that as your task list, and that really just kind of clicked in my head. Yes. So what I do is I all the things that I have to do, whether it's family, business, church, um, I put into this task list. Okay, and I capture it. I have an app on my phone that I can capture it with, and I can. It's integrated with a web browser, so anywhere, if I'm on the internet, I can get to it. And then I also go old school. I carry with me everywhere I go a little 3x5 index card holder with index cards. And if I'm thinking of something, um, and I will write it down, or if it's more than just something that I can quickly type into my phone, I'll write down, jot down several different ideas, and I'll keep it in that jotter, and I'll put it in my pocket. And when I get back to my office or my home, I'll capture those thoughts. And so the first step for me is to capture my thoughts, or capture my tasks, or capture things that have been assigned or delegated to me. I also capture the things that I'm going to delegate off. Okay, so I have one place I can go to. This is where I speak about consistency. I have one place I can go to where I can capture those thoughts, and capture the productivity items that I need, that are important to me. I use that in conjunction with a calendar. Okay, I use one calendar. I don't have a business calendar, or this is my family calendar. I have everything. It shows up. I open my calendar on my computer. Bam, I see everything. Now it's all color coded, yes. So I know which ones are have to do with which,
Sure.
but everything's on my calendar. And what goes on my calendar is what takes up blocks of time. Okay, so meetings, phone calls, out of town trips, any travel, all that stuff goes on the calendar because there are set times for those things to occur. If I have to call somebody, I don't put it on my calendar. I don't schedule a time on my calendar to plan when I'm going to call somebody.
Right.
I'm go ahead and if I'm thinking I have to call somebody, I'm going to put it on my task list,
Sure.
and I can assign a time and say this is when I'm going to reach out to somebody,
Sure.
okay, or plan the call with somebody. And usually nowadays, because everybody has schedules that move around, we have to send an email to find out when somebody's available so we can call them.
Right.
And then our calendar sends a text to remind the person we're about to call them. So there really is no excuse to miss these times. But again, the calendar only is for when times have been assigned and we've agreed on a time we're going to do things, or I've set time aside to do certain things. And the task list runs everything else. Now, the third part of this whole thing is my email, okay? And I know that I laugh about my kids. They think that I'm old school because I use email, and now that they're going through life, they're realizing, oh, email's not going away. Well,
Right.
it's not. How we use it may be, but email is not going away. So I have email accounts, and I use a modified, like you said, a custom GTD system to handle my incoming email. Is it something that I need to read? Is it something that I am waiting for an answer on? Is it something that I have to take action on? Is it something that is just, I need to keep it, I need to know where it is, but I don't need it on a reference basis. It's a long-term keep. And so I have different folders, and I am very, very purposeful in managing my incoming email. So that way, I like to keep inbox zero. I know that's a catchphrase and a popular thing people say, but the reason I do it is because my email boxes are an extension of my productivity system, or
Right.
my custom system for me. So it's made up of three things for me. It's a task list, it's a calendar, and it's I would say it's correspondence because that's how most of the people that I work with correspond. We're not I don't do a lot. I would like to, but we don't do a lot of collaboration right now using a lot of the tools that are online. I think in the future that with the people I work with, we'll implement some of those collaboration techniques where it's actually capturing thoughts and everything as we go along. But for now, it's a lot of messages going back and forth and things like that. So my email system, which I thought about it the other day, Andrew. I think I've been using email for 20 years.
Wow.
And so I looked at my, it was funny to look into my Gmail box and see how many messages were really in there. And I'm very thankful that they're expanding the storage all the time because I don't get rid of everything.
Yeah, I mean and it works for you. Now my system is totally different for them,
Mm-hmm.
like completely. And I wanted something to be simple. I wanted something that I could go to one place and do everything. And so I've got two applications that I use for everything. We're going to kind of get into that a little bit. The process that I use is to capture everything, and that is, I mean, everything. If it's a thought, go to the store. I want to look up an article. Go see this movie. If it's something I need to do, I put that into a system. So the two icons that I use, actually, I might be able to show you my phone here. And kind of show exactly what's going on. I've got two icons. I'm using Evernote for my kind of digital brain, so to speak, and then I'm using an application called Todoist, Todoist, whatever that is, Todoist, Todoist. I'll put it in the show notes. You can find it, and so what I do is I just have two icons on my home screen there. Let's see if this focuses. You kind of get the idea. Two icons, and it's literally I've split everything up into I want or I need.
Mm-hmm.
I want to remember to call Rob and ask him about dinner. um, I would put that into Evernote. I need to write up a sales report for this. I need to schedule a practice. I need to review the staff schedule for next week. Then I would go into Todoist and I would make these tasks. Evernote, there's a ton of people out there using Evernote. I was never a big fan of Evernote. I'll be honest. I never could get my head wrapped around it. It was complicated. It was clunky. It didn't look good to me. I didn't like the way it functioned. I didn't like the way it flowed. And then I heard a guy on YouTube say, I watched the Steve Dotto webinar. Great. Steve Dotto is awesome. He does a lot of great tech reviews. He's from Canada, really, really nice guy. And he did a webinar on Evernote. I jumped into it to say, like, man, could this be really, really awesome? Because I'm hearing people talk about everything in one place, all information, one location, which kind of out of the world that I've been building recently with the source and internal operations for the ministry. That was kind of our motto, is like, if to keep order, you got to have all information in one location. So now Evernote is kind of becoming like my digital brain. And if I get a quote for a new television camera, it's going into Evernote. If I'm getting a recipe for cooking, if I get a new guitar chart, like, hey, here's a cool video that teaches you how to play a cool thing, a link is going into Evernote. And I think what's really big about Evernote is it integrates with almost everything. So from your phone to your tablets to, you see a cool tweet where someone posts out an article, I know the girls are really big about this, some Pinterest pictures and all that kind of stuff. You can send it to Evernote very quickly, and then within Evernote you can create notebooks. You can create tags that kind of get you to where you need to be. So for me, I was like, this is really great to keep me on track, because when I go, oh, what was the name of the company, the plumber that we brought out that one time back 2 years ago? I can just go to Evernote and I can search plumber. I can search the areas and the items that are there, and it's amazing how quickly it brings it up. On the task side, I wanted something that was similar to Gmail. We're both in Gmail, and so I wanted something that was similar to Gmail. And Todoist did a really great job of making tasks simple. It's a clean layout, and then I can just kind of go through it. The difference and the last thing I'll point on, and then we'll talk out kind of some of the tips and tricks of all of this and putting it all together. The difference that works for me is I do things by context. And when we talk about context, what we mean by that is, for example, you said, if I've got to make a phone call, I'm just going to make the phone call. As to where I set aside a specific time where I go, okay, and it's normally when I'm in the car. When I'm driving from Katy to Columbus, I'm on the phone and I'm doing all of my phone calls at that moment. If I have like a lunch meeting, great. I can meet you on Sundays, Mondays, or Wednesdays. Those are my lunch meeting times. I do all of my email at night and only at night. Shocker, I know. But I mean, my motto for everyone else in the world is that you will send me an email, you'll wake up in the morning with an answer. And that sometimes it takes time to process, because I do zero inbox as well. But I'll tell you what, by managing the times, instead of always bzzzt, oh it's an email, bzzzt, oh it's an email, bzzzt, oh it's an email, I'm ridding myself of all of those distractions. Because if I'm talking with someone, if I'm discipling somebody, if I'm in a meeting and talking to a guy, I want to give him everything I've got. And I can't do that if I'm constantly looking and saying, oh, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on. So those are kind of my two worlds. I split things up by context, and I'm not by any means a loyalist to the GTD platform and all in completely. No, I've definitely modified for myself to work for me. In Evernote, I try to put 3 tags with everything. I try to put, where did this come from, what is it, and then when did I use it? So for something like a message, that I type up like at church, who gave me this, and I would put Pastor Daddy. That's what I put for my tag there. Pastor Daddy, message, BWC. If I get a picture of, oh, really, really cool, I was at a car wash the other day, and I was sending you info. We were talking about a certain car wash, I took a picture of the car wash the car wash. It went into Evernote, and then I tagged it, Rob. Um, I think it would have been like a vendor, I guess, because
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
something that's happening, and then when off time, and like those are the things. And so I organize accordingly that way, and it really really does help me kind of get through into some things. So let's talk some tips and tricks here, because we're not here to tell you how to do your perfect
Right.
productivity system. I will say the one thing that has drastically helped me is to automate my tools. And what I mean by that is I found a great service called Task Clone, TaskClone. Task Clone. Task Clone is an amazing feature that when you're in Evernote, Evernote gives you the ability to do a little checkbox. For some reason, Evernote doesn't do a really good to-do list management. You would think they would, but
Hmm.
but they're not there yet. And so, but what they do is a little task button. Task Clone has figured out a way to take that task checkbox, and then you can integrate it with a productivity app that you choose. So I've chosen Todoist. I've tried all of them, Asana and Productive and Basecamp. I mean, you
Hmm.
name it. I've been. My team laughs at me horrendously because I walk into meetings and I go, "All right, we've got a new task management application. Go for it. Go download it. Enjoy it. Make things better." And it's like you have to really understand. Like, no, you have to find what works for you. So I have finally landed on Todoist. I really enjoy it. And so what Task Clone does, I don't even think I've told you about this. What
Hmm.
Task Clone does is it is a bridge between Evernote and Todoist. So if I'm in a meeting and I'm just doing notes, and while like especially the supervisors leadership meeting that we have with Pastor Daddy, and so if he's going and I'm just typing away and I'm going, man, great scripture, and wow, what a revelation, and boom, this is good, and then in the middle of it, he might just say, Andrew, when you get a chance, send me a list of all the countries that YBB is airing in. Yes, sir, absolutely. Okay, so instead of jumping out of Evernote and making a task, send list to pastor, whatever, I can just add the checkbox in the Evernote note itself,
Hmm.
and then Task Clone automatically takes what the checkbox was and creates it as a new task for me in Todoist. So when I open up Todoist, boom, the task is already there. I'm not fiddling with it. I'm not messing with it, and I'm kind of in this realm of just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, stay where you are, get going. So I would say, like you were talking earlier, automate your tasks of automating what it means, like your Todoist or your calendar. Okay, I've got my calendar, I've blocked it out. Send me a text message reminder. If you're a
Hmm.
big text message person, I think it's you gotta kind of find which
Yeah.
digital tool works for you. If you're an email person, set it to send emails. If you're a push notification person, it's amazing to me. There's guys I know that they have the Sports Center notification app on, and every time that da-da-dum, da-da-dum, I
Hmm.
mean they
Hmm.
stop their world
Yeah.
mid conversation to look at it. And so
Yes.
if you're in the habit of looking at that and looking at what that notification brings to you, then set that up. Any tips or tricks of what you would use?
Yeah, you touched on it. You touched on it just a little bit ago when you talked about tagging items. I think with a lot of these productivity apps and or systems, it can almost get too complicated to be productive. Where I've got this whole process that I've got to follow in order to be productive, and I think we've touched on it enough to say that's not the case. It has to be something that you have to find the tools that fit you. So the best thing I can say is let's keep it simple.
Right.
Let's keep it as simple as we can. For people who are moving, and we certainly agree and believe that the people who are watching this are getting some great information out of it, and they're going to move from a life of disorder to a life of order, that let's do it in steps because you didn't get to this
Right.
overnight. You're not going to get to this necessarily overnight. Don't let things frustrate you. Let's go. Let's take the positive steps. Let's keep moving forward with the system, but let's keep it simple. So, I know that if time if time that I have to do something has to be blocked out, I know where to go for it.
Right.
So if you, just like you said, you have the I need and I want. So you've already made the decision engine on when something comes into you. You've already made the, here's the question I ask, and now I know what to do with it. And so that's the thing that everybody has to have. You have to have that decision engine. So when an input comes, you have to know what is it, what am I going to do with it?
And
Because I need to put it somewhere to capture it, so that way 5 minutes later, when the next input comes in, I know what to do with it. And you spoke about email and looking. I remember when we go to dinner quite a bit, and we have our phones on the table, but they're buzzing, they're moving. We're still talking.
we're talking.
We don't break away from what's going on to look at them, because we're focused in context with what we're doing. And so I've turned off on my computers and my devices. It doesn't tell me when an email comes.
Yeah.
Okay, it'll show me the number, but it doesn't alert me. It doesn't tell me. I don't need to know, because I have set times in my day when I'm going to process those emails and when I'm going to look at them. And so we are in control of how we manage inputs. And so simplicity is the one thing. Find a system, keep the system simple. It doesn't matter how many features and how many tags and how many fields and all this priorities and all this other stuff it can do. Keep it simple to what you can understand and what you want to understand,
Right.
and how you want to break up your day. And then the second thing is, understand that you do manage these pulls on your time. And when things pull on your time or require your time, you want to be a good steward of it, and you want to give it 100%. So in order to give it 100% and to give it your best effort, both your full attention with your mind, your full attention with your faculties, you have to be able to put those other things that you have to do aside and focus on what's at hand.
Because
And so,
you'll even find too that even the people that I've seen who decide to use like a physical notebook, and that their systems are just as intense as what we're talking about.
mhm.
I know a lady who she has different color coded notebooks, and each notebook is for a different subject of her day. And every week she takes it and she goes and she starts off a new day and she writes the date at the top, and this is what I'm doing today. And then next day, this day. And so then when she's in meetings, oh, what day do you want that? Oh, Thursday. She flips over to the Thursday page and she writes down, this has to be done by Thursday. I think that's awesome. If that works for you, you need to figure out what's going on. The last tip I leave with, and then we'll kind of do some final words here, is um, I forget his name, and I'll quote him accordingly in the blog post. But he talks about having the difference between a to-do list and a today list. And what's that guy's name? That's gonna bug me. The thought process though is that you're always gonna have a to-do list. It is gonna be forever long, for always and always and always. Something's gonna constantly go, whether it's to do something fun, or even go to the gym, or something that's repetitive. You're always going to have a I have to do this list. But you don't necessarily have to do all of that in one day.
That's
And I
right.
think we feel overwhelmed and we go, oh gosh, I can't do this because I got to write VBS stuff, or I got to do my financial investments, or I got to go wash the car, or I got to, all these different things that you have to do. And his perspective is every single day, do a review, kind of like what you've talked about, and say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to, all my to-do list, I look at the massive list once a day, and I go, what out of this list can I get done today? And then move that task to a separate list called today. For some, it might be a calendar. For some, it might just be a little notepad. For some, it could just be a memo note. Some people have systems where they email themselves every single day. Peter's really big about emailing himself. He likes that. That works for him. So by taking the to-do to today, wow, now my list of 80 things to do has turned into 8 things to do, and I can just go through and knock those out individually. I thought that was a really cool way to kind of streamline and slimline your day down to
Hmm.
say. Don't worry about to do. Just take care of today
Hmm.
and do that accordingly. Any last little tips or final words before we call this a night?
Yeah, your little comment there reminded me when I started along this process, I I was paper, paper, paper. I had a little planner, I had paper, and the first little what they called PDAs back then, right? Personal digital assistants came out, and I thought, well, let me try one of those. And I kept saying no, paper, 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 paper. I like paper. Well, I look at today. I use paper for notes or whatever else, but not to manage any of my productivity. I use my computer or my tablets, my phone, whatever else. And so I never thought about it until now that I did finally make the migration. And so what I'd like to encourage everybody is that the system you choose today doesn't have to be the system.
That's good.
It's a step in finding out what system works for you. You know, you've done a lot of research and you've tried different things, and so have I. And there are things that are look fancier. They do more things. They can probably streamline a lot of what I'm doing. But what I'm doing right now works,
Right.
and there's no reason yet for me to to branch out unless I start finding, and that's one thing you'll do with this when you're evaluating productivity is where am I not being as efficient as I could be? And then you'll start looking, well, maybe that would help me, or maybe this will help me. So the decisions you make in the next week on how to implement a productivity plan for yourself are not set in stone.
Right.
They are do what you think and you feel that will work for you now, and you never know. Maybe 2 years from now it'll change. Maybe you'll still be doing it. But the important thing is to make that decision that yes, I want to bring order into my life, and it keeps coming on me. I want to be a good steward of my time.
Right.
We're always want to be good stewards of our finances, and we want to be good stewards of responsibilities or positions we're put in of leadership. But that involves being a good steward of your time.
And we have to say too, don't pull out of it when it doesn't work in 7 days.
Right.
Give it 30 days minimum to just try to get in the groove because you'll get in the groove and I'm putting stuff into my inbox all day long, my Evernote inbox, where I am just like at the end of the day, it's kind of fun at the end of the night. You go back and you look at your day and you're like, oh yeah, I remember I saw that display in the window at the mall, and I thought, man, that'd be a really good set design. Let me take a picture of that.
Hmm.
And then later on, I'm going through, and I'm at a bookstore, and I look at a book, and I'm like, oh wow, I really want to look up that book. Really want to buy that later. Okay, picture, and and like it's fun to kind of relive your day and really understand what it is. So find what works for you. It is going to change. I mean, I literally, I can say honestly, I have probably spent the past 7 or 8 months refining my system, refining something that I know works for me. But I'll tell you, I have never felt more on top of my life than I do right now. And
Hmm.
when I'm doing ministry, I can do that. And I tell the team a lot all the time. And a lot of the reasons why we created the source was we recognize when the system can take care of the details,
Hmm.
then the people can take care of the ministry. And that is what we want. We want to be able to do ministry daily. And ministry doesn't necessarily mean getting on a stage and preaching. It can be being in a place. David Allen says it in a much more Zen kind of context or perspective, but he says it, and I agree with his perspective on it, which was he said, "There's two things I have to do in my life: what I'm doing right now, and whatever is next." And I like that because if you're not thinking what's next, oh I gotta catch up, oh I'm late, I gotta hurry, come on kids, let's go, it's nice. And so for the people who are sitting there going, well, Andrew, Rob, you guys are pros, you've thought this out. We don't get it right all the time. We mess it up, we understand. I mean, we've been in conversation where you'll say, hey, could you send me that? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. And you're like, you're not putting it in your phone right now. I know if it doesn't go in your phone, it's not going to happen. We mess up, we drop the ball, but we pick it up, we keep dribbling down the court of life because we understand that the productivity that we're doing, it's for a purpose. And
Hmm.
I believe, and I'll finish with this, I believe that every single assignment that is given to me, there's a grace for that assignment, and it's also a training ground for a
That's right.
heads up in my destiny to say, here's your assignment now, but what the Holy Spirit has for you 5 years from now is going to require much more than where you are right now.
Right.
So let's learn how to manage these tasks. Let's learn how to manage your time, because your destiny is so much bigger than where I have you right now. And like you said, we refine our systems because honestly, I'm doing things now I wasn't doing 2 years.
Right. That's right.
I'm in a very unique stage of life right now, and you and I are in totally different stages of life,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
married, you got a family, you got a lot of kids, you got kids in college, like you've got stuff going all over the place, but you still want to be able to have time to sit down and enjoy your life and get it going and have with that. So, Rob, thanks for your time, man. This has been great. We might even do a follow-up session, and I would say if you have questions, please comment accordingly. Where can we get a hold of you, Rob? How can we find you? How do people stay in touch with you and all that you're doing?
Twitter's a great place to find me. I'm at RobMD21. So just ping me a message or let me know there, and we can connect in a numerous amount of ways, whether it's on Google Plus or whatever else. So it's absolutely great, Andrew. Thank you for having me on. These are conversations that we've had privately, and you've always challenged me to think a little ahead of where I am. So it's always good to be able to share these tips with this lifestyle. It really is a lifestyle
Yeah.
of we don't want. There's one quote I want to say, and I used to have this on in the kitchen. It said, and I used to tell the kids, a failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. And it, I'm encouraged to see that they are now understanding what that means, and they're even sharing that with people they have to interact with. And so, if we can just help one person, it's great. But I know there's a lot of people out there who'll benefit from this conversation.
Definitely. Plan your work your plan, live a life on purpose, for purpose, and really choose daily to not let your life run you, but choose to run your own life and manage accordingly, because we do believe that where there is order, glory follows.
Hmm.
So, more to come. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we will take a vote on maybe doing some more of these in the near future, and like accordingly and share accordingly and all the above. And until next time, keep leading, keep doing what you do, because we need you on your game to do what you're doing. Nobody can do what you do. Nobody can take what your assignment is and do your assignment for you. You're anointed for the assignment that God's given you, and be a great leader and have fun while you're doing it. Enjoy this thing. All right, we'll see you later. Thanks a lot.